recommended for our area. And we're going to go over the same type thing. I'll finish up with harvesting. This is kind of the way we're going to do it. Raspberries and blackberries are overlooked. That's that little critter that we all hate up there, the spotted winged Drosophila. This is what it looks like. It looks just like a fruit fly. The difference in this fruit fly and the ones that get around your bananas is this one has a saw in its little abdomen. It can saw into ripe fruit. It will not lay eggs in fruit that's not fully ripe. So that's what's detrimental to us. We're dealing with an insect that comes in when the fruit's ripe in there. And now Entrust, there it is. Oh, I'm so glad I put it down. Entrust is the one that works best for the spotted winged Drosophila. And there's no, I think there's a 2-hour waiting period to even eat, that particular crop. But it works really good, and the way you do it is, I'll just tell you ahead of time, if you like I'm a Mountain Dew drinker, and so you get the plastic bottle, you cut a little hole in the top of it, put apple cider vinegar in that bottle, hang it out there near your blackberries, your whatever, those Drosophila, smell that, and they come directly to that, and then you can count and see if you've got Drosophila coming into your field. That's the way we trap them. You can get all kinds of sticky traps and fancy traps. I've even got designs for these things. If you want them, I can give them to Sarah, and she can give them to you in there. But raspberries and blackberries are real easy to grow. They're really, to me, overlooked a lot. There's low need for pest control. I used to say there was no pest control. Now we've got this little booger that come from the Orient over here. That's where all of our bad stuff comes from, is China and Japan and those places. Blackberries, they're either erect, which are the ones that are the natives. They stand up and they don't fall over. That's your erect blackberries. You've got your semi-trailing, like a black satin type. And then you've got your trailing. That would be something like a dewberry, or in there. We don't grow a lot of dewberries here for some reason. People just don't seem to like them. I think they're just extremely flavorful and very easy to grow. It just hasn't caught on to this region. Here, raspberries, the black is real suited to us. Has that kind of a purpley cane to it, kind of that white haze on there. Does real good for us. We've had a little bit of trouble with some of the yellows, oranges, freezing out in the wintertime. It's been our problem in that area. The red ones that I recommend growing here there's two kinds. There's Heritage and Caroline. There's lots of others, but those don't tend to freeze out. If you're above 2,500 foot elevation, you better stick with these two varieties because they will freeze out on you. Or you're in a low, wet area, you'll get some freeze out. So just so you know that. There are all kinds of other blackberry crosses that are out there, like the Loganberries, boysenberries, all kinds of them out there. And they'll do good here. We just don't grow them in the area. And I put it here for varieties if you want to look at different varieties. Blackberries, there's early, mid, and late season. There's a blackberry called Primark 45. These particular raspberries right here, Heritage and Caroline, they actually do, they actually do real good for us because we don't have to trellis them. They're everbearers, and they'll put 2 crops on. They'll put a crop on their primocane. They'll put a cane up in the summer, and it'll produce berries in the fall. Then that cane will live through the winter, and put berries on the next spring. Most all cane berries produce on the wood that's at least a year old. So whatever cane is growing this summer, next season is going to be your berries. These varieties and Primark 45, actually you can mow them down and get 1 crop a year. You don't have to trellis them. So you put them in a bed like your strawberries. In the fall of the year, when you're tired of them, you mow them down. And then they'll come back up and produce a late summer, August, September crop for you. So it makes it easy to produce for us. Now your black raspberries are primocane, so they will produce on the new cane. Whatever cane grows this summer will produce for the next year. Okay? Does that make sense? Everybody understand that? But it makes it real easy to produce. I've got, Hickory Nut Gap Farm. Y'all probably know that one over there. They're growing Caroline this year. And the reason why they're growing is they can mow it. And they don't have to have a heavy labor because they're really trying to grow meat, but they want to have things for the children that come to see their animals and stuff like that in there. Okay, soil prep and planting. pH for this would be, it can take a little bit more acid, down to about 5.8. You know, whereas we were talking the strawberries need to be a little bit higher up, slightly acid. These will be okay. A soil test needs to be done ahead of time, pretty much. If you're going to raise the pH for caneberries, I recommend dolomitic limestone lime that has the magnesium in it, because they can use a lot more magnesium than some of your other small fruits. They have a high need for calcium and a high need for magnesium that are in there. They do not do well with perennial weeds. Yes, the native blackberries will grow everywhere on the side of the hill and the bank. But, you know, if you're trying to grow them for a crop and get side shoots, you need to not have the competition for because the berries get smaller and are in there. Whenever you're going to plant a caneberry, avoid these crops, primarily because of verticillium wilt. They carry verticillium wilt even though they may not be affected by it. So you need at least a year or two of time when there hasn't been potatoes or anything in the nightshade family. You know, eggplant, that's the nightshade family that will carry a little bit of verticillium wilt. And they're very prone to verticillium wilt. The other big disease that you need to worry about is orange rust. I didn't put that in here because it wasn't in your book. But orange rust is decimating to caneberries. It is pretty much on the native blackberries that are out there. It's orange in color, and it actually looks like rust on the plant. It gets underneath the leaves and will colonize under the whole leaf, will go into the stem. It is systemic. It will go down and eventually kill the whole plant. It's everywhere, all over Haywood County, pretty much in the native blackberries. You just don't notice it as much. That's in there. So if you've got a question? It's called orange rust.
So if you
have that, you grub it out, you burn that plant and get rid of it. Because it will be in the soil, and it will, you know, as soon as you see it on the leaves, you cut the leaves off, you know, and you mitigate that problem, get rid of that, take it to the landfill, whatever.
If
you don't.
In the soil, you need to change the bed that you're using.
Yes. If you let it colonize and get into the cane, it can go down in the roots. As long as it's up on the top part and you cut that off, mitigate that, something like a pretty harsh fungicide, you know, would be you could take care of it.
You can keep the roots, you can keep the plant, or not?
Yes, if it's not in the cane. But once you see it on the leaves, it'll be orange. The whole bottom will be orange. You get that off of there immediately, because it goes by wind. It moves in by the wind and by plants. So what you do is once you see it on the leaves, you cut those leaves off or spray. What we do in the commercial industry, and the homeowners can do it as well, we use a lime sulfur spray in the wintertime. That helps get cane blight, orange rust, and a lot of the other overwintering funguses that are there.
When you're talking about avoiding the nightshades, is that...
That's when you first plant.
Not planting in those same beds?
Correct.
But they can be in the same yard?
Oh yeah. It's just a lot of folks in our home gardens, we grow it in the same home garden year after year after year. And if you've put potatoes in there multiple years, or I'll get you, and other things, you're going to have a buildup of verticillium wilt. You just want to do everything you can to mitigate not having a problem for a perennial crop. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
The lime sulfur spray, you spray in the fall?
You can spray anywhere from the dormant season. I normally recommend around Christmas, you know, through January. You know, that gives you a little bit of protection in case you've got some freeze out. And it gives it plenty of time for it to go dormant. Okay? And what you want in blackberries and raspberries is you want a color change on the cane. Most of the canes on these in the fall of the year are going to be a lighter color. So like if you're using what are some of the varieties? I can't think of the varieties of blackberries. A lot of the blackberries will change to a darker color, like a red, you know, once they go into dormancy. And they change color, and then the next spring they green up. But they'll actually change color, and that's how you know that your canes have gone dormant. Okay? It's just a little tidbit there, a Craig Money tidbit. All right, planting hole. You know, you want a hole, even though you're going to get a lot of roots that come with blackberries that are kind of small. but you want a loose hole so the roots go out real quick into the native soil. You don't need to do a whole lot of amendments because if you've got blackberries native on your property, you can't kill the suckers. So once you've got that root down there, it's going to be okay. But you need to give it the best you can for the roots to come out. You want a good deep root, so you want to dig a good, I've got, I forgot, I didn't put the, but I put a pretty good sized hole. If it's a tiny little cane, about 2.5 times the size of the root ball that you get is the hole you want to dig. A post hole digger works good. Get a little hole, loosen that up, stick your blackberry in there. And it's according to what type you've got. You want probably about 10 foot between rows. That's primarily because you're going to have a lot of canes that are going to go in between, about 3 to 5 feet. So you want enough space where you can walk in between. You can just do one row in there. And about 3 feet apart in the row, if it's the erect type. If it's a semi, which is the norm that we have, you're going to be 6 to 10 feet. I say 8. 8 works really good. So you've got this good, cluster of canes, 4 or 5 canes, and then you fan those canes out. So you're going to have a good 5 feet. You'll have 3 feet on this side, 3.5 feet, and 3.5 feet on this side. So you can let those canes spread out into a fan shape when you're doing. If the roots come, when you order the blackberries and they're dry, they're not dead, I like to soak my roots overnight. And that gives them a good chance to where they're going to start putting out roots. It's a real hard cluster root that comes from a blackberry normally. I don't say, even if the roots are dried up on there and they're not, you can't pull them off, they're probably still alive. They've gone into full dormancy. They can go almost completely dry. Only if you see a brown dead root, trim them off. I don't worry about it. Just stick the thing in the hole and you're ready to go. Okay? If you buy a blackberry that has a crown already where it's growing, you plant it a lot like a strawberry. You want it a little bit below the surface. A blackberry can actually be planted where the crown is completely down in the ground and it will live. If you've ever had native blackberries you're trying to get rid of, you'll understand what I'm saying. You can plant a blackberry a foot deep and it'll still come up. It just take a while. They are a booger. Yes, ma'am? Same thing. Same thing with the raspberry. And a lot of your black raspberries are going to come with maybe 1 cane already on it, 2 canes. That's probably not a viable cane, but I'd still leave it on there because you might get a little berry or 2 on there. Not a problem with blackberries. Strawberries, we pick the blooms off. Blueberries, we pick the blooms off. Blackberries, I don't too much worry about. It's a really strong root and a hard root. It'll be fine. Semi-trailing. I'll have a picture here in a few minutes. A 2-wire system works really good. A lot of folks will use a Geneva double curtain. We use all kinds of systems. It doesn't matter. Whatever you like is what's going to work. I even have one grower in the mountains. He makes a little square wooden, like a, I don't know, it's like a graveyard thing to me. It's a square, and his canes go up into a bush. He has another one over here. So it's all over his yard, these bushes of blackberries. You just want to keep those blackberry semi-trailing canes from laying on the ground. You want them up to where you can pick those. Okay, that's the key. Same thing with tomatoes. When I was growing up, we grew tomatoes like they're a vine. We grew them on the ground. You made them in a bed, and the tomato plant went all over the ground. And then back in the 60s, we decided we were going to, string them. So that's what we do now. Now people don't even know that tomatoes were a vine grown on the ground like a squash was, in the 50s. Now telling my age. But, anyway, so every one of them has a different system. The erect plants, the 1-wire system is really kind of good to hold it up, and you'll know where to prune. It's kind of a guide is what that is. You don't really have to have that. Black raspberries don't even have to be, wired. They're more of an erect plant. Your red raspberries, the canes will flop over, so you've got to put them on a wire in there. Here's what a single wire would look like for that erect blackberry. Just 1 wire. Gives you a guide. You'll do it at 3 feet. You'll learn on, you need to learn on your body. On my body, 3 feet is to right here. So I know on my body, I don't even have to bring a measuring tool out there. I'll say, oh, your wire's a little tall there, because I'm walking up against it, but I know that a yardstick comes to right here on my belt on me. On there. 3 feet apart, the wire is good. A pruning and erect blackberry, what you need to understand with blackberries in the summertime, they're going to be in your way. That new cane that's coming up is going to be the primal cane. So as it comes up, its sucker can get 7 feet long. You don't want it 7 feet long in the summer because you're going to have berries way out here. So you want to trim it. So in the summertime, you tip those. Very similar to here. And these are the new ones. Now remember, you're going to have canes in the middle of this too that have got berries on them right now. So that's not drawn in here. But you'll have a bunch of the ones that are producing berries right now, having blooms. These are those new ones that have come up while you're harvesting. If you tip those off, what's going to happen is it will initiate side shoots. Where these leaves are here, you'll get new shoots coming off to the side, which can double the production of the blackberry and the raspberry. Okay? That's what you want. That's why we have those wires as a guide. You know, then the canes that are producing this year, while this is going on, will finish out and they'll sometimes die. So that's what we prune out for the next year. So what you're going to have is like that 3 foot apart, 8 foot apart. You're going to have a clump of canes right here. You'll want in the winter time, when you're done, you choose 3 to 5 of those best primocanes that you trimmed off here. That's the ones you save for the next year. You may have 15 of them. So that you reduce those down to 4 or 5, somewhere in there. And it's nice and open. See, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, there's probably 10 of them, new canes that came out. So if we have 4 or 5 of them, you've got a lot of nutrition saved in the root system. So the next spring, that's going to put out a lot of side shoots, and you'll increase the production of your berries, and you'll increase the size of your berries. Instead of having a small little berry, like with blueberries, I call them BBs. I don't want BBs. I want something bigger than a BB. We'll get to that in a minute. All right.
So
And
you're going to trim the top
Yes.
during the summer, and then you're going to trim out the older canes in the winter.
Yes. And what's your name, Kathy? You got it.
Okay.
Exactly. So you're going to remove all of the old ones that produced last summer and some of the new ones down to about 4 to 5. Okay? And you keep it in a clump. Now what's going to happen is these blackberries are going to go everywhere. You're going to have babies over here, over here, over here, out in the middle of the row. Kill the hell out of them. Go in there and hoe them out. Don't save them. Okay? And I know it's vulgar, but it's just my personality. Just put up with me for the day. All right? I mean, you've got to reduce that. That is competition for that fruit that you're wanting to grow right here. Then you know where it's like grapevines. We'll get to grapevines in a minute. You've got a grape arbor. Every single homeowner that I've ever worked with in my career, and I'm now 60 this week, okay, the grapevine will grow. Oh, what a wonderful vine. So I take it and I put it back up on the thing, and another one grows. By the time I come out there, there's vines everywhere. You know, that is not what we do with grapevines. That is not what we do with blackberries. We're murderers. We'll reduce those because I want big old fat juicy fruit. I don't want little bitty tiny fruit. And I want nutritious fruit. Okay. Semi-trailing. Here's that, 3 feet and 2 feet. You have a 2-wire system. What's going to happen is we're cutting like this. So next summer, when they start coming out, we've got place for those canes those side canes to come out. So what happens is, we have a late frost, those first blooms get burnt on a blackberry. No problem. You're still going to get a production. If you've got freeze out on the top, if you've pruned appropriately, like what I've told you, and you've reduced that, you're going to have 2 crops. You'll have the bloom start. Well, there it goes. You have the bloom start in here, and then there'll be a side shoot come out. That side shoot is going to come out, grow 6 or 8 inches, and bloom. So you're going to have a lot of berries there. So that's how in the commercial industry we save our blackberries sometimes, because in the mountains, we can compete now. We have over 180 acres of blackberries in western North Carolina right now that I work with. Okay? We can compete much better